Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you've given us and really dig into them.
Exactly. It's like getting the highlights, the important bits, without needing to read the whole thing yourself. A shortcut to being informed, maybe?
That's the idea. We pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising connections you wouldn't spot otherwise. And each deep dive is unique, built around the material you send.
So today we're looking at excerpts from the Mahabharata, Book 1, Adi-Parva, Paushya Parva, Section 3.
Right, the Mahabharata, this huge ancient Indian epic. And this section, it's got several stories kind of woven together.
And our mission, if you will, is to explore some of the big themes running through them. We're talking about things like curses, duty, what it means to be a disciple, and revenge, too.
We're hoping for some aha moments, seeing how these old stories click together.
Okay.
So let's jump in. King Janamejaya, that's where this section kicks off.
It is. The story starts with him and his brothers, Sutasena, Ugrasena, and Bhimasena, performing this really long sacrifice out on the plains of Kurukshetra. And while this is going on, they have this run-in with a puppy. The offspring of Sarama, who's described as a celestial dog.
A run-in that goes sideways pretty quickly, it seems.
Yeah.
Janamejaya's brothers beat the puppy.
They do. And naturally, the puppy runs to its mother, Sarama. Being celestial, she takes this very, very seriously.
You'd think, so she confronts them.
Right. She goes straight to Janamejaya and his brothers and basically says, look, my son did nothing wrong. He didn't even look at your offerings. And when they can't really justify beating him, she lays down this curse. Evil shall come upon ye when ye least expect it.
Wow. That's quite a thing to have hanging over you, especially from a celestial being. It really shows how actions had consequences, doesn't it? Even towards animals.
Definitely. There's a sense that the world is interconnected spiritually. So Janamejaya is understandably pretty alarmed.
I bet.
After the sacrifice finishes, he goes back to his capital, Hastinapura, and he gets really focused on finding a purohita. That's like a royal priest or chaplain.
Someone who can maybe fix this, counteract the curse.
Exactly. He needs spiritual protection. This search eventually leads him to a sage, a rishi named Srutasrava, and his son, Somasrava.
And Janamejaya wants the son, Somasrava, to be his purohita.
Yes. And the description the rishi gives of his son is, well, it's pretty remarkable.
How so?
He's described as deeply ascetic, very disciplined. He's mastered the Vedas, the sacred texts, and has immense spiritual power from all this self-control.
Okay, sounds impressive.
But then there's the origin story. The rishi says Somasrava was born from a she-snake who drank his vital fluid.
Wait, a she-snake?
Yeah. Quite the origin, and he's apparently able to absolve almost any sin except sins against the god Mahadeva.
Okay, that's a big asterisk, but still powerful.
But here's the catch. There's one more thing. Somasrava has this unbreakable vow. He must grant anything a brahmana, someone from the priestly class, asks of him.
So a potential vulnerability there.
A big one. The rishi basically warns Janamejaya, if you can live with this condition, he's yours. And Janamejaya, desperate about Sarama's curse, just says yes immediately.
He takes him on as purohita.
All right.
And tells his brothers they have to obey him, no questions asked.
Right. And right after securing his spiritual advisor, Janamejaya marches off to Takshaka and conquers it. So the curse kind of sets off this chain reaction, seeking protection, finding this unique purohita, and then expanding his kingdom.
Interesting. Okay, so the story then shifts focus, doesn't it? To another rishi.
Yes, it moves to Rishi Ayoda-Dhaumya and his 3 disciples, Upamanyu, Aruni, and Veda. And these stories, they really give us a window into discipleship back then, the relationship, the trials.
Let's start with Aruni from Panchala. What was his story?
His preceptor, Ayoda-Dhaumya, tells him to go fix a breach in a water course, stop a leak in an irrigation channel in a field.
Seems straightforward enough, a practical task.
You'd think. But Aruni tries everything, mud, sticks, whatever, and he just can't stop the water.
So what does he do?
This is where it gets kind of wild. He takes his duty so incredibly literally. Since he can't block the water any other way, he lies down in the breach himself, uses his own body as the dam.
He what?
Seriously, he just lies there in the mud and water.
Okay, that's extreme dedication. Or maybe something else. What was the point of that level of obedience?
That's a good question. Maybe about completely submitting the ego. Anyway, the preceptor eventually notices Aruni is missing and goes looking for him.
Finds him in the ditch, I assume?
Calls out his name, and Aruni answers from the breach, explaining what he did. And the preceptor isn't angry, he's actually pleased.
Pleased.
Yeah, pleased by the sheer obedience. He blesses Aruni, gives him the name Utanka, which apparently means one who got up, like from the ditch.
Okay.
And he's blessed with knowledge of the Vedas and the Dharmasastras, the texts on righteous conduct. So Aruni's story is this very physical, very direct form of fulfilling duty.
Wow. Okay, who's next? Upamanyu. His story sounds like it was even tougher.
Oh, yeah. Upamanyu's trials are something else. His job is to look after the cattle, the kine.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, the preceptor notices Upamanyu still looks pretty well fed, healthy, plump even.
And he gets suspicious.
Exactly. He asks Upamanyu how he's managing to eat. Upamanyu says, "Oh, I beg for alms."
Okay, seems reasonable.
The preceptor immediately forbids it, tells him he can't consume any alms without offering them to him, the teacher, first.
Right. Okay. Standard practice, maybe?
Perhaps. So Upamanyu agrees, but he still looks healthy.
So the preceptor asks again.
Yep. How are you eating now? And Upamanyu admits, well, after giving the first lot of alms to the preceptor, he goes out and begs a second time for himself.
Finding a loophole.
Kind of, but the preceptor shuts that down too. Says it's greedy, it takes away from other potential beggars.
Man, this teacher is strict. What's left for Upamanyu?
Well, the questioning continues. Next, Upamanyu confesses he's been drinking the cow's milk.
While tending the cows. Makes sense.
Forbidden, not without the preceptor's permission.
Seriously. Okay, this feels less like teaching and more like testing endurance to the absolute limit.
It really does. So what now? Upamanyu then admits he's surviving on the froth, the foam that the calves spill when they're nursing.
Oh, come on. That's barely anything.
Exactly. But even that is forbidden. The preceptor says he's being unkind to the calves, depriving them.
This is unbelievable. Poor Upamanyu must be starving.
Absolutely. And driven by desperate hunger, he finally eats some arka leaves he finds in the forest.
And I'm guessing that doesn't end well.
Not at all. The leaves are poisonous. They make him go blind. And then, stumbling around, he falls into a pit, a dry well.
Oh, no.
So he doesn't return with the cows. The preceptor gets worried, goes searching, calls out.
Finds him in the pit, blind.
Yes. And Upamanyu tells him what happened. Instead of immediate help, the preceptor tells him to pray, to glorify the twin Aswins.
The Aswins. They're like divine healers, right?
Exactly, divine physicians. And Upamanyu, there in the pit, blind and starving, recites this incredibly beautiful, profound hymn to them.
What's it like?
It's amazing, really. He praises them as existing before creation itself. He talks about, the fundamental elements, nature and soul, the cycle of time. He describes time as this wheel with 360 days and nights, the 6 seasons, the 12 zodiac signs.
Wow. From a state of such suffering, he produces this deep philosophical praise. That's quite a contrast to Aruni just lying in the mud.
It really is. Aruni's was action. Upamanyu's trial leads to this spiritual outpouring, this intellectual and devotional expression.
So do the Aswins respond?
They do. Pleased by his hymn, they appear before him and offer him a cake.
Finally, some food.
But wait, Upamanyu, even now, blind, starving, having suffered so much, he refuses the cake.
He refuses. Why?
Because his preceptor hadn't given him permission to eat it. He actually mentions that he knows his preceptor once took a cake from the Aswins without offering it to his teacher first. But Upamanyu himself won't break the rule.
That is incredible discipline. Or maybe conditioning.
It's hard to say from our perspective, isn't it? But the Aswins are incredibly impressed by this steadfastness.
I should hope so.
They bless him, they restore his sight, they promise him golden teeth, which is an odd detail, but okay, and good fortune in the future.
Golden teeth.
Okay,
so he gets out of the pit, sees again.
Goes back to his preceptor, and the preceptor is overjoyed, confirms the blessings, and promises him mastery of all the sacred knowledge. Upamanyu's ordeal is over. It really shows the extremes, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the third disciple, Veda? Was his experience as intense?
Veda's story is different. It emphasizes consistent long-term service rather than dramatic trials.
Also.
The preceptor just asks Veda to stay on and serve him in the household for a long time.
And Veda agrees.
Yes. And he serves faithfully for years, enduring all the hardships, heat, cold, hunger, you name it, without a single complaint, just quiet dedication.
No blindings, no lying in ditches?
Apparently not. Just years of steady, uncomplaining service. And eventually, the preceptor is satisfied. He recognizes this perseverance and grants Veda good fortune and universal knowledge.
It's a different path to wisdom.
Exactly. And later, when Veda becomes a householder himself and has his own disciples, the text notes he treats them kindly, specifically because he remembers how hard his own service was.
Ah, so he learned compassion from his experience too. That makes sense.
Right. Which brings us to the last and maybe most complex story in this section, Utanka.
Okay, Utanka. He was Veda's disciple, wasn't he?
Yes. We learn that King Janamejaya, him again, and another king, Paushya, appoint Veda as their spiritual guide.
So Veda's now a respected preceptor.
Right, and before Veda leaves to attend a sacrifice for one of these kings, he puts his disciple Utanka in charge of his household.
Okay, seems like a position of trust.
It is. But while Veda is gone, things get awkward. The women of the household pressure Utanka. They want him to stand in for the preceptor, specifically during the mistress's fertile period.
Whoa, okay. That's a really difficult situation for a disciple.
Extremely. But Utanka refuses. He says he wasn't directly instructed by his master, and besides, it wouldn't be proper. He holds firm.
Good for him. How did Veda react when he got back?
He was very pleased with Utanka's integrity. So pleased, he gives Utanka leave to depart, his studies presumably complete, and offers him a boon, a wish.
A reward for his service and principles.
But Utanka, showing his own sense of duty, says, actually, I want to give you something. He wants to offer the dakshina, the traditional honorarium or gift a disciple gives the preceptor upon completing their studies.
Ah, nice gesture. So what does Veda ask for?
Veda tells him to ask his wife, the preceptress.
Okay, and what does she want?
This is where the quest really begins. She demands the earrings worn by King Paushya's queen.
The queen's earrings? That sounds difficult to get.
Very, and she adds a deadline. Utanka has to bring them back within 4 days because she wants to wear them for a specific sacred feast.
4 days? That's barely any time. Talk about pressure.
No kidding. So Utanka sets off immediately, and on the road he sees this very strange sight, a huge bull and a man riding on its back.
Okay, more symbolism.
Almost certainly. The man tells Utanka and later reveals himself to be Indra, king of the gods, to eat the bull's dung and drink its urine.
What? Dung and urine? Why?
Indra assures him it's okay, even beneficial, and claims that Utanka's own master, Veda, had done the same thing before him on some past journey.
Veda did that too. Okay, so Utanka, does he do it?
He does, reluctantly, probably, but he complies, maybe seeing it as another test or trusting the divine source.
Right. This journey is getting weirder and weirder, so he reaches King Paushya's palace.
He does. He goes to the king, explains his mission, asks for the queen's earrings as his dakshina.
And Paushya just agrees.
Paushya's willing, yes. He tells Utanka to go to the queen's private apartments and ask her directly.
Simple enough.
Not quite. Utanka goes, but he can't find the queen anywhere. He goes back to the king, confused.
What happened? Was she hiding?
The king suggests Utanka might be ritually impure. He asks if Utanka performed his ablutions, his purification rites, correctly after eating.
Ah, the details matter.
Big time. Utanka realizes his mistake. He'd done the purification rites while standing up after his meal, which was considered improper. He needed to be seated.
So he fixes that.
Goes and does the rites properly, seated this time. Then he goes back to the queen's chambers.
And she's there.
She's there, visible now. She greets him respectfully and willingly gives him the precious earrings.
Finally. Quest accomplished.
Almost. As she hands them over, she gives him a serious warning. Be careful, she says. Takshaka, the king of the serpents, desperately wants these earrings.
Takshaka. King of the Nagas, the serpents.
Oh.
Okay, foreshadowing. Does Utanka listen?
Not really. He seems pretty confident, maybe a bit dismissive, thanks her and leaves.
Okay, so he's got the earrings heading back.
But on his way out, King Paushya stops him. Paushya wants to perform a shraddha, a ceremony for his ancestors, because Utanka is a qualified Brahmana guest, and it's considered auspicious.
A delay, but a respectful one. Utanka agrees.
He agrees to wait. But while waiting for the ceremony and the associated meal, he inspects the food being prepared. He finds it's unclean. There's a hair in it, and it's served cold. Major breaches of purity for a shraddha offering.
Oh boy. This isn't going to go well, is it?
Nope. Utanka is furious. He immediately curses King Paushya, saying, "Since you offered me impure food, you will become blind."
Just like that. A curse for blindness. How does Paushya react?
He's angry too. He denies the food is unclean and curses Utanka right back, saying, "Since you falsely accuse my pure food, you will be childless."
Wow, curses flying back and forth. Does Paushya check the food?
He does. And his cooks confirm, yes, it was unclean, there was a hair, and it was prepared improperly, making it cold.
So Utanka was right. Does Paushya take back his curse?
He tries to pacify Utanka, acknowledges the error, but he says something interesting. He says his curse, coming from him as a Kshatriya, a warrior king, has a hard heart, meaning it's fixed, irrevocable. Whereas a Brahmana's curse, while sharp in words, comes from a soft heart and can sometimes be altered.
Interesting distinction between the classes there.
Yeah.
So Paushya is stuck being blind.
Seems like it. And Utanka basically says, well, your curse against me won't work anyway because the food genuinely was unclean, so my accusation wasn't false.
Okay, so Utanka leaves, presumably still fertile, leaving behind a blind king. Now he just needs to get the earrings back in time.
Right. He's got the earrings. He's on his way. But remember the queen's warning about Takshaka.
Ah, yes. The serpent king.
Utanka stops by some water to refresh himself, setting the earrings down nearby. And suddenly, this naked beggar appears out of nowhere, snatches the earrings, and runs off.
The beggar. That's Takshaka, isn't it? In disguise.
Exactly. Utanka chases him, and the beggar transforms back into Takshaka the serpent, who then slithers into a hole in the ground, disappearing into the earth.
Oh, no. After all that.
Utanka is desperate. He tries digging into the hole with just a stick, obviously getting nowhere fast.
He needs help. Divine help, maybe.
And he gets it. Indra, remember him from the bull ride? Shows up again. He uses his Vajra, his thunderbolt weapon, not to strike, but to blast open the hole, making it large enough for Utanka to enter.
So Utanka goes down into the serpent realm. What's it like?
The text describes it as magnificent palaces, towers, playgrounds, a whole splendid world underground, the realm of the Nagas.
But Takshaka has the earrings. How does Utanka get them back now?
First, he tries praise. He delivers this formal eulogy to the Nagas, naming famous serpents like Airavata, Dhritarashtra, Takshaka himself. Trying to flatter them, maybe?
Does it work?
Nope. Doesn't move them at all. The earrings aren't returned.
So what next? More visions?
Precisely. He then sees this very symbolic scene. 2 women weaving on a loom with black and white threads. There's a wheel with 12 spokes being turned by 6 boys. And there's a man with a really handsome horse.
Okay, definitely sounds symbolic. Does Utanka understand it?
He seems to. He offers praise to these figures, specifically identifying the man with the horse as Indra again, the wielder of the thunder, the protector. He bows to him as the supreme lord.
And Indra helps again.
Yes. Indra asks Utanka what he wants. Utanka says he wants power over the serpents to subdue them.
And Indra's solution is?
It's another weird one. He tells Utanka to blow into the horse that's standing there with him.
Blow into the horse? Like into its ear or nostril? Or...
The text just says, blow into the horse. So Utanka does. And immediately, flames mixed with smoke burst out from every part of the horse's body.
Whoa. The horse breathes fire. Or is fire.
Seems like it. The flames start scorching the Naga realm, threatening to burn everything down. The serpents are terrified.
That gets their attention.
It certainly does. Takshaka, completely panicked by the fire, quickly brings the earrings back and gives them to Utanka.
Success. Finally. But wasn't he on a deadline? That 4-day limit.
Exactly. Utanka suddenly realizes he might be too late. All this took time. He's worried his preceptress will curse him for failing.
Can Indra help with that too?
One last time, Indra offers him the fiery horse he just blew into, telling him it will get him back instantly.
A super fast, fire-breathing steed. Nice.
Utanka mounts the horse and arrives back at his preceptor's home just as the preceptress is finishing her preparations for the sacred feast. He presents the earrings.
Just in the nick of time. How does she react?
She's incredibly relieved. She blesses Utanka and says his purity and innocence must have protected him, otherwise she would have cursed him for being late.
Close call. And Veda, the preceptor?
He welcomes Utanka back warmly and asks, what took you so long?
And Utanka has quite a story to tell.
Absolutely. He recounts everything: Takshaka, the beggar disguise, the chase, entering the Naga realm, the weaving women, the wheel, the man, the horse, the bull ride, the dung, all of it.
Does Veda explain the visions? The symbols?
Yes. This is where we get the exclamations. Veda tells him, the 2 women weaving are Dada and Vidhata, the forces that establish and ordain creation. The black and white threads are night and day.
Okay.
The wheel with 12 spokes turned by 6 boys, that's the year, with its 12 months and 6 seasons.
That makes sense.
The man he saw in the vision is Parjanya, the god of rain. The horse is Agni, the god of fire.
So blowing into the horse was like blowing into fire itself.
Exactly. And the bull Utanka saw earlier, that was Airavata, Indra's celestial elephant mount. The rider, as Utanka guessed, was Indra.
And the dung and urine he had to consume.
Veda explains that was actually Amrita, the nectar of immortality.
Seriously, that's why he had to eat it.
Apparently, Veda says it was because Indra favored him, and consuming the Amrita ensured Utanka wouldn't die down in the dangerous Naga realm. It protected him.
Wow. So Indra was helping him out from the very beginning
Yeah.
in very strange ways.
It seems so. It all allowed him to survive the serpent world and get the earrings back safely.
Incredible story. So Veda is pleased. Utanka fulfilled the difficult dakshina. He gets leave to go now.
Yes. Veda grants him final leave to depart, wishing him good fortune. Utanka's formal discipleship is over.
But something tells me Utanka isn't quite finished. That whole ordeal with Takshaka stealing the earrings.
Exactly. Utanka is furious. He feels deeply wronged by Takshaka. He resolves to get revenge.
How? What can he do against the king of the serpents?
He doesn't plan to act alone. He travels straight to Hastinapura, seeking out King Janamejaya, the same king who started this whole section off with Sarama's curse, remember?
Right. The one who just got back victorious from conquering Takshashila, full circle.
Utanka gets an audience with the king. He gives the formal blessings, but then immediately challenges Janamejaya, asking why he seems idle when there's important business to attend to.
Bold move. How does the king take that?
Janamejaya says his duty is cherishing his subjects, but asks what specific business Utanka means.
And Utanka lets him have it.
Oh, yeah. Utanka delivers this powerful speech. He tells Janamejaya it's time to avenge his own father's death.
Janamejaya's father, how did he die?
Utanka reveals maybe Janamejaya didn't know the full details, that his father, King Parikshit, was killed by none other than Takshaka, the serpent king.
Takshaka again. He really is the villain here.
Utanka describes Takshaka's wicked act, how he bit the king, and how another sage, Kasyapa, was on his way to save the king with an antidote, but was bribed or tricked by Takshaka to turn back.
So Janamejaya's father was murdered by this serpent who also stole Utanka's earrings.
Precisely. Utanka urges Janamejaya to perform a great snake sacrifice, a Sarpasatra, to lure Takshaka out and burn him along with his entire race in the sacrificial fire.
Whoa. That's a genocide, basically.
It's extreme vengeance, and Utanka explicitly connects it to his own grievance, telling the king how Takshaka obstructed him while he was trying to perform his sacred duty for his own preceptor.
So he uses his personal quest to fuel the king's quest for revenge. How does Janamejaya react to hearing all this?
The text says he's filled with grief and rage. Hearing the details of his father's death from Utanka really ignites something in him. And that powerful reaction, spurred by Utanka's story, sets the stage for the next major event in the Mahabharata, that very snake sacrifice. It shows how personal wrongs, quests for duty, and royal vengeance all get tangled together.
So looking back at these stories then, we started with Janamejaya getting cursed by a celestial dog, which led him to find a very unusual priest.
Then we saw Ayoda-Dhaumya's disciples Aruni, literally embodying duty, Upamanyu enduring extreme tests leading to divine encounters.
And Veda, showing quiet perseverance. All very different takes on what it means to be a disciple, right?
Absolutely. And finally, Utanka's incredibly complex journey fulfilling his duty to his preceptor, facing divine tests, battling Takshaka, and ultimately seeking vengeance that ties back to the very beginning of this section.
The aha moments for me were things like, Aruni literally lying in the ditch, Upamanyu's hymn coming out of that awful situation, and just how involved the gods, like Indra, were in Utanka's quest, even with the dung eating.
Right. It challenges our expectations. These aren't just simple moral tales. They're complex, sometimes strange, and layered with meaning about duty, consequences, and maybe the nature of reality as they saw it.
And hopefully for you listening, this dive give you a good feel for that richness, pulling out those threads without you having to navigate the whole epic right now.
So maybe something to think about as you go is these different kinds of duty we saw. Aruni's physical obedience, Upamanyu's unwavering devotion through suffering, Utanka's determination to fulfill his preceptress's specific, difficult request. How do those ideas strike you today?
Yeah, do they resonate with modern ideas of responsibility?
Yeah.
Or do they seem completely alien?
And what about curses? Sarama's curse on Janamejaya, the curses between Utanka and Paushya. What does that imply about cause and effect? About justice, maybe? Does fate play a role, or is it all action and consequence?
Lots to chew on there. We definitely encourage you to explore more of the Mahabharata if this sparked your interest. It's full of stories like these. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.